of the greatest joys I've experienced is discovering truly, at this point, my identity, and that becoming clearer and clearer to me, and also gaining charisma. Being able to, in my opinion, my definition, being able to get what I want from other people, not through being nasty or deceiving, but because they want to give it to you. That's the difference between charisma and being sneaky. You can be sneaky, you can be a liar, you can be a fraud, and you can get in some ways what you want. But charisma is when people are giving you what you want, because they want to do it too, because you inspired them. And identity is the art of knowing what you want. And we all usually start off, when we're younger, when we're babies, and then young children, not knowing what we want. We know what we like to do, we feel it and we do it, and we don't think of anything else. But the problem with the world, not because some evil genius has designed it this way, though they may have, but I don't think it's for that reason, just through industrial revolution and the way that humans work in increasing output and productivity, the world is now designed to steal both from you, to steal your charisma and make you grey and dry and boring, and at the same time steal any semblance of identity, really knowing what you are and what you want, rather than what you've been programmed to believe you want. And the reason why is because we now live in an observing culture. In no time in human history has it been this normal to watch other people have fun, to be shown the best of the best on a daily basis. Places so incredible you can't believe what you're seeing through your phone screen. People's skills and talents that have taken them 50 years to master in little videos like they're nothing. Never in human history has that been possible. And what happens is when it becomes easier to gain the dopamine of observing greatness than to actually be great, those that can be great become greater and they win in the modern day. That's why this is important, because it is harder, because it is easier to just observe. It is easier to just observe greatness and to get lost in the dopamine of not knowing who you are. It's very easy to be distracted in this day and age and become nothing. When it's easier to do that, more people do it. And when it's harder to do something else, the people that do stick through and manage to become a charismatic person with a strong identity, they're the ones that win. And I want you to be that person, because I've found in times that this has really made my life. Becoming completely me, doing what I want to do and doing it with a smile on my face and the ability to inspire other people. And so let's break these down, and I'm going to tell you how to rediscover that in the modern day, really find who you are again. And I was meant to explain charisma and identity, and I'll come back to those, but one thought I'm having right now that will be most relevant to nearly all of you watching this was one of the first changes I made in my life, is that it's very hard to have a charismatic identity if you hate your job. I'm under no illusion that most people are in survival mode, and it's very hard to have hobbies, passions, to think deeply when you are in survival mode, when you are thinking about putting food on the table. It's very, very difficult to become anything more than scared. And that's where people want you to stay. If you stay scared, you just turn up and you work and you never advance through your life. You never advance your identity or your personality. You never become strong and dangerous. You become very weak because you're scared. So you just turn up and do the same thing. So one of the first things that must change is that you must remove your job as being your form of identity. And I see this as being more dangerous when you're not quite on the survival line. I meet a lot of guys, promising young guys, that maybe make $100,000 a year. And their full identity is that job, that they have made it. It's the first thing they say. Well, I'm very successful. I have a very good job, you see. I have a very good life. But deep down, I'm miserable and I'm looking for more. And so it's a bit of a parallax, because you can't have a very good life if deep down you're miserable and looking for more. And that's because they completely tie the status of their job to their identity without enjoying it. The single biggest improvement you can make to life quality and your overall success and how much you enjoy life is to do something you enjoy doing and get paid for it. A lot of you might turn around and say, well, Jack, it's easier said than done. And I would say it's easier done than said. So many people say it. Not that many people actually do it. If there's something you really enjoy doing, go and do it as your job, because you spend 8 hours a day doing it. Don't build up hobbies around the outside of your life to give it a little bit of color when the majority of your life is hell. Change the bit that is hell. That's what I would change. That's the first port of call when you discover identity, is to find out in your mind, what do you actually like doing? And there's so many examples. That's a beautiful thing about the generation we live in. If you sit at home and you look at people and you love golf, and all you do outside of work is you play golf and you watch golf videos and you know all the gear and all this stuff. If that's what you love doing, rather than working a job you hate to then go and play golf on the weekends, you can start a YouTube channel and show yourself playing golf on your own journey, and you can become that person that other people watch. The only thing that holds you back is courage. You are too scared to do it because it might not work. In my mind, that's ridiculous, because there's nothing worse than staying stuck in a job that you could always go back to because you didn't have the balls to risk it, to build a new identity. And that was the first thing I did in my life. I went, my job will not define me, even though I make half decent money. I do not want to do this every day. So rather than build my hobbies around the side, I was just like, fuck this. I'm saving up my money. I'm going all in. And I'm going to keep doing this until I get to live the way I want to live every single day. And my thing that I love doing is creation. On a whole, creating Lego, creating YouTube videos, short films, music. That's my passion. That's what I've loved from being when I was a child. And the other thing is health and exercise. They're my two key components to my character. And when you find those things, you gain passion for them. You have passion in your voice when you speak. If you go and sit down, let's use the example of a date. You sit down and a girl asks you what you do. And all you can say is, oh, I build like spreadsheets and figure out profit and loss statements. And yeah, it's just a job I'm not that interested in. That is your lack of charisma. Not because you're not meant to be a charismatic person, because you're damn bored. Because you're bored and all you've got is this shit thing that you do every day. So really, if you are in that position, don't try and fix your hobbies. Don't try and make time for these things around the outside of a life you hate. Find somebody that has done the thing you want to do and ask them for help, or watch their journey. Anybody can do it. Look at John Summit. He's a DJ. He was an accountant. And he just said, fuck this, I ain't being an accountant, I'm going to be a DJ. Because he knew, he loves it so much, he loves music so much, that even if he could just make enough to get by, be happy for the rest of his life. And there's probably that thing for you, whether it's fitness or surfing or adventure or travel. There is a way to do the thing that would light you up every single day. The only thing holding you back is your fear. And how do you overcome that fear? It's a very easy formula to think about, a lot harder to do. That's why it requires great courage. You won't have it all figured out before you go. The only thing you can ask yourself is, looking back on my deathbed, would I regret not doing this? And would this make a better story if I was to write a book about my life? That's how I ask myself the question. I say, look, I'm scared to do this. Maybe what I'm doing now is easier. I'm scared to take this jump, but will I regret it when I'm on my deathbed having tried? No. I definitely wouldn't regret it. I'd regret not doing it. Okay, that's one thing. If I stay exactly the same with no risk, would that make a better story in my life than just going after what I want? And I ask myself that question. And through those two questions, you can find your answer to a beautiful life, to a life that builds charisma and identity. And looking a little more into how we reignite this, because a lot of you might come to the thing of saying, well, I don't actually know what I want to do. I actually have no idea. Life has lost all of its color to me. I don't even really know what I like anymore. And that's because of the loss of boredom. We don't spend enough time bored. When we're bored, we use our imaginations. And our imaginations create our lives in our minds before we live them. That's why imagination is so important. So my recommendation for you is to read instead of scroll. And the reason why is because you can read great fiction or even non-fiction stories about things you're interested in. And rather than seeing a picture, you have to paint a picture in your mind. It reignites the imagination. You also have to focus. Scrolling, 95% of the info doesn't go in. So these are lost pockets of time you spend scrolling. Reading, you'll hold on to a lot more of that information. And that builds your breadth of knowledge. That breadth of knowledge builds your character. You have experiences through other people in your mind. Identity is your values, interests, hobbies after a wide collection of experiences. You can't expect to have a strong identity, and you can't expect to have strong charisma without going through things. You have to move your life from observing into doing. You have to do the things that scare you over and over again. You have to analyze the data of what you've experienced, how it made you feel. And that is what builds your identity. When you've actually seen things and experienced things, you collect what you like, get rid of what you don't, and that becomes who you are. And this all comes from a level of boredom. So how do we get to a point where we're bored? It's very, very easy. We stop distracting ourselves in an age of distraction so we can think clearly. You get rid of the vape, you get rid of the drugs, you get rid of the weed, you get rid of the alcohol. So everything's raw and painful. And then you sit bored. When you get home from work, sit in your room for an hour and don't do anything with a pen and paper in front of you. I guarantee you start dreaming. I guarantee you start thinking about something greater you could do with your life. And that's what you need to do. Because if you remain in that bubble of comfort, you will never change. It has to be less painful to go and have an exhilarating experience than it is to stay the same. And that can only be done with the removal of comfort. Let's talk a little bit about charisma, because charisma really is what makes life enjoyable, I think. Having a strong identity and doing what you want and knowing what you want is important. But you'll have nobody to do it with, nobody to enjoy doing it with, and you won't really change the world if you don't have charisma. Charisma is what adds the spice to life, what makes every day a joy. When you're a charismatic person and people like you, and they want to be around you, and they understand what you're saying, and they agree with it, it makes everything more fluid in life. And these are a few ways you can build that charisma. So charisma is the ability to attract, influence, and hold the attention of others through personal presence, communication, style, and perceived confidence. Number one way you can build charisma at the start, without having to do really anything to your personality directly, is to improve your body, right? Because your presence. You'll get more smiles from people, you'll get more positive experiences from people, and more respect if you're in shape. And getting in shape requires going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, eating in a calorie deficit if you're fat, eating your protein and hitting your macros if you're not fat, and making sure you grow muscle, and working out fairly hard. And this becomes a small little element of your identity and your charisma. Because you had to do some hard thing for a long time, probably gained some experiences, met some people, and you gain that one little thing. Okay, tick, I've got a decent body now. So when people look at me, they don't instantly disrespect me because they know at least I can control what I put in my mouth and how I train. So it starts to build your charisma. People are more likely to listen to you and do what you say, okay? In order to be charismatic, you have to be present. There is nothing worse, and it's very, very common nowadays, than people doing 2 to 3 things at once whilst trying to have a conversation. There's no quicker way to disrespect someone. If somebody looks at you, starts listening to what you say, halfway through they get a text, start reading it, replying, they're somewhere else. How does that make you feel as a person? Makes you feel small, makes you feel not valued, makes you feel terrible. You don't want to do that to other people, because that's how you piss people off. That's how people end up not liking you. What's so rare these days is for someone to listen. Not just wait for their turn to speak, for somebody to listen to what you say and take it in and smile at you and believe in you. All the things, the way you want to be seen, the way you want someone to look in your eye and to smile at you and be heard, the thing you yearn for most is how you treat other people to get them to like you. 2 great books for this. The Power of Now, for presence especially, how to live in the now, how to get out of your head and start enjoying the moment, because it's all we ever have. We don't have the future. We don't have the past. All we have is this second now, and we can really enjoy it. And if we learn to enjoy this moment, a lot of our suffering goes away because it's all in our minds for the future, or it's all from the bad things that happened in the past. So if you have true presence, it's very, very attractive. Someone can look at you and go, oh my God, he's in the room with me. He actually listens. He understands me. Also, don't judge. Being a judgmental person isn't very charismatic, I don't think. Listen to people and try and understand what happened to them to fuck them up. You can learn something from everyone. But The Power of Now is great. Eckhart Tolle is the author. And another great book is How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, I believe. Both of those are great reads. I've read them both multiple times. Very, very good. The next one, confidence, not arrogance. Confidence is really being able to state your case, say what you want when you want it, tell people what you want, look them in the eye, not feel intimidated. Arrogance is where you feel better than other people because of what you've achieved. I like to see my life as never being very far above someone, never being very far below, no matter who they are. And that confidence leads to charisma. Doesn't matter if I'm speaking to the delivery driver of my food or I'm speaking to royalty. I think of myself as on a level playing field with both sides. I will not put myself underneath one or massively above another, because we can all learn things from each other. And that, I believe, is true confidence. Being happy to say things, being happy to state your point, not having to prove anything. Another big one is just simple warmth. That was one of the greatest things my mum ever taught me. Was she noticed very young that I was having a problem with being called arrogant. And sometimes I still get this now, especially when I was at school. I was having a problem with being called arrogant, and it's because I was actually internally very shy. And because I was shy, would not want to show emotion. So I'd walk into rooms very sort of stern, blue steel, pouting a bit, trying to be a cool kid. It came off as very, very arrogant. I wasn't like that. I'm actually naturally very warm and kind, but I was very shy. My mum said to me, when you go into a room, smile. Not like an idiot, but give people a light smile. Look at a few people when you walk into a room. Keep your head up and your shoulders back, but give them a disarming smile. A lot of positives start to happen when you walk into rooms happy. When you start to smile and you walk in confident. People instantly look at you and go, hey, that guy looks friendly. He seems all right. In the comparison of people's first judgment being, that guy looks like a prick, and then having to unlearn that. Power and status. It's very hard to be someone who is magnetically charismatic without a level of power or status. And the reason why is because people only respect something that doesn't need to be given. So the most charismatic people you'll notice are ones that don't need to be charismatic, but they still are. Choosing to be charismatic, choosing to be warm when you don't need to be, is ultimate charisma in my opinion. When someone is a celebrity or somebody is very rich or very famous, but they still choose to treat people with respect and kindness and warmth and presence, that's when you become ultimately your most charismatic. The more power you build. How do you build that power and that status in your life? You go after what you want. You know what you want on that journey, the thing that lights you up, that time passes freely whilst you do it. You don't notice time passing. You do that thing over and over again until you become good at it. And you will become good at it because you love it. And then you'll get paid for it and you'll get renowned for it. And that's when it's most important that as you begin to activate that fame or that notoriety or that success, that you really keep your warmth and you don't let it fade into arrogance. But when you're weak, when you're fat, when you have no respect for yourself and you are simply warm, that's when you are taken as pushover. He's warm because he can't be anything else. You want to be warm, present, and charismatic when you don't have to be, when you could get away with treating people like shit, but you choose not to. Another thing is vocal variety and storytelling. Storytelling is really the art of telling a sequence of events with tension and a payoff. That's all that storytelling is. So rather just saying the facts of what happened, you start framing with tension. I really needed to get to the post office on time. Otherwise, the letter with the check for my brother would not arrive on time and he'd die in hospital in Afghanistan. You've got people's attention at that point. And then you can begin telling your story. Rather than, yeah, I needed to go and get a letter. I had a check in it. I need to send it to my brother. He's ill in hospital in Afghanistan. I nearly didn't get there, but I did in the end. I sent it to him. You've ruined your story. You start with stakes and you give them the payoff. You build tension in between. That might be a bad example. That just came into my head for some reason. I was watching Afghanistan edits earlier, war stuff. Vocal variety. Talking slowly, talking fast, in a whisper to draw people in. Having a bit of a booming voice. Knowing other voices you can do to make things funny. Little characters that you can put on an impersonation of. And a bit of movement will make you more charismatic. Being a social chameleon. So knowing that when you go into a funeral and everybody's crying, maybe don't walk in super arrogant, happy and booming. That wouldn't be a very charismatic thing to do. You have to kind of read rooms that you're in. This doesn't mean change your identity in rooms. It just means change the charisma level, I would say. You're still the same person. No matter where you walk into, you still have the same values and you'd still speak up to them. But you're shooting yourself in the foot if you go into a room that has a certain set of rules or a room with a certain vibe to it and you choose the opposite of that vibe. So a lot of people that they just believe being charismatic is doing what you want to do whenever you want. I don't think it is. And the final one, it's really, really important, is vulnerability. Knowing your flaws and being able to admit them at the right time, never seeming too perfect and knowing when you've made mistakes. That's really important because nobody loves somebody that just gets it all fucking right because it just isn't true and we all know that. Everybody has their own struggles and things that go on in their head and we really relate to people that can say to us, yeah, I've been having a hard time with that too. I've struggled with that at this point and I've made this mistake and this mistake. Other people go, oh, okay, he is human after all. That's very important to your charisma. So, there you go. Bit of a rambling really, and just the wildness of my mind, but I'm quite passionate about this. I really believe you should stop watching and start doing. If you like it, like for me, I've always liked watching DJs. I recently thought, because I cut out from my life comfort, I cut out alcohol at the start of this year. I didn't think it was that big a deal. I've been sober for like 7 months. I'm DJing like 4 hours a day, watching a course on DJing. Because I've watched it, I love it. Why don't I do it instead? Because I have the time. Because there's nothing more fun for me to do. Because I take away that comfort whenever it appears in my life. And I want you to do the same, because I think you can be so much. I think you can work every day at a job or a business that you absolutely love. And then once you have some money and some time, because you've become successful in that, you can fill your life with all these beautiful hobbies and interests that you have. And that's what you spend your time in, not in your phone, but living in the real world and influencing other people for your charisma to do the same. And I think that builds a beautiful life. There you go. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you on the next one. Whoop-ah!